you're the Niners, it's hard not to lean into Christian McCaffrey, right? You want to ease Brock Purdy's anxiety going into his first Super Bowl start, lean into Christian McCaffrey, especially early. So, are the opposing defenses prepared for all of those lines of thinking and that logic and ready to shut down the opposing run games? Or do McCaffrey and Pacheco really maybe drive this thing more than, say, Purdy and Mahomes?
I think the best idea for Kansas City is just to ignore anything that Matt Nagy brings up in any meeting or on any headset. That would be to their benefit. My first thought as far as the rushing props is I find these very, very interesting. Like the point spread, I'm expecting a close game. So game script wise, like if you look at Kansas City, they've been involved in a couple of blowouts in the playoffs. So I wouldn't judge their rush defense based on that too much because Baltimore just decided to completely abandon the run, even though they shouldn't have. And Miami was a blowout in the wild card game there. And so I think it's going to be close. Now, if you're playing from out in front, obviously you're going to end up running the ball more. Which side has blowout potential? I'd say only Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is not getting blown out in the Super Bowl. It's just not happening. He's gonna be in the game no matter what. But we've seen total clunkers from Purdy, including a 4-interception game not that long ago. So it is possible. You can run on both of these teams. That's been proven all year long, not only in the playoffs, but if you look at the entire regular season, look at rush EPA on defense. San Francisco 26, Kansas City 28th. Okay. And then San Francisco, number 1 in the NFL in rush EPA on offense. And the Detroit game, 182 yards on the ground. Green Bay ran for 136. Aaron Jones, 18 for 108. He was not that guy this year. I don't know that he's that guy anymore, but he was against this San Francisco rush defense. So the game that was not a blowout in the Kansas City playoff run, Buffalo, 182 rushing yards, like Detroit. So, Aaron, that's why I find these markets so appealing because in both instances, both defenses are terrible against the run, and the San Francisco rushing offense is as good as it gets. So I think we have a lot of opportunities here, and it's not only with the running backs, with these rushing props.
Yeah, I agree. I like both Pacheco and CMC props with the rush attempts. You could look at yards, touchdowns, even though like I do hope this is a back and forth game and I think it'll be a closer game. They're still going to try to run the ball. And if the Chiefs, for example, are up, like you said, like they will be trying to, chew up some of that clock as well. So I think both of them are good looks.
I was surprised that I got here, but the number led me there. My favorite attempts bet in this category is Brock Purdy rush attempts. So it's juiced at 2.5, or you can find plus money at 3.5 at plus 124. Now, Kansas City just faced a couple of mobile quarterbacks that had their opportunities. And you expect that when you go against Lamar and Josh Allen. 8 for Lamar, 12 for Josh Allen. But Purdy, in their matchups over on the NFC side, he's been taken off a little bit. 5 for 48 against Detroit, and he had 6 attempts in the Green Bay game. So if I'm playing the juice 2.5, I just have to get to 3. Purdy rushes should get there. And then obviously if I like that, you look at the rush yards, it's only, you can find an 11.5, most of the market at 12.5, but I like the over 11.5. And if I'm picking between CMC and Pacheco, man, I've got to go Pacheco. You can find a 67.5 rushing yards out there. I think both will have a lot of success, but obviously the CMC number is out there in the 90s already. But I don't expect this 67.5, 68.5 to be there next week. I'm sure once we get closer to the game that the Pacheco number is going to be into the 70s. It's a good spot, man. That seems like a lot of value for a guy that just had 24 carries in the Baltimore game. He had 15 for 97 in the Buffalo game, another 24 in the Miami game. I know they were playing in front, but there's certainly that possibility where KC is playing from out in front, and Pacheco will have all the opportunities in the world if that's the case.
I mentioned Orange Gatorade. That is catching some steam here now. What
That makes
what is
sense.
this?
A few years ago, the Chiefs, they doused Andy Reid with orange. So
Okay.
that makes
So they
sense,
think
right?
orange is the Andy Reid play
So,
here.
so
Is
the
that his
early
favorite
favorite
flavor?
was last year.
See, Andy is an orange guy.
Nah,
Burgers and orange Gatorade.
Orange
Like
Gatorade.
orange,
He
like
ain't
orange
eating
high
oranges.
C at McDonald's.
Oh
or whatever.
yeah,
like,
yeah. He kind of looks like the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Ronald McDonald with the wearing the red, and then you throw the orange in there. It's kind of like a Ronald McDonald thing going on. So according to BetMGM, it's moved from plus 550 to plus 500. 29% of the bets, which is the most, and 35% of the money, which is the most, is on orange.
Does
Favorite
anybody
is
have a
still
favorite Gatorade? Anybody have a
lemon ice.
Blue.
Glacier Freeze, dude.
Which one is
Yeah,
the one
anything
that's not
blue.
quite clear? That's like the white color. I
the
don't even
cherry
know.
Lemon ice.
glacier one?
Oh.
Cherry glacier cherry or whatever it's called.
That's
Yes.
You
a
like
good
cough
one.
syrup? Oh,
No, the white one's good.
No.
I'm with Chris on this.
Yeah,
Chris, you're
it's not a
forgetting. I'm
heavy
with you on this
cherry
one.
flavor. Thank you.
Riptide Rush, like
Eh.
grape adjacent.
Cherry
You also can't
reminds
go
me of
wrong with-
You know
NyQuil.
what? I'm gonna say so. I'm good on grape.
Yeah.
I'm good on grape flavored stuff.
Yeah, let's
Don't
get
need
cherry
it.
in there. But
I-
no,
I-
like,
I-
yeah,
I
grape
love grape.
slander.
The best
Yeah.
part
You
is
Trust me.
nobody
I do
else in the
too.
house drinks it. So I'll buy it and nobody else is going to drink it. I'm like, perfect. Because the kids always go for the
That's-
blue or the red.
That is huge
During-
as a parent when you can find a snack or a drink item that the kids aren't going to gobble up before you even get to
Yep.
touch one. That's a big
Yes.
move.
Let's talk about the matchup. What do you think? What did you think about the initial line of 2.5? Everybody knew, no matter what side you're on, you knew it was coming down just based on the performances of these two teams on their path here. Opening number, current number. Do you agree with where everything's going, and where do you think it ends up in 11 days from now?
Yeah, knew it was going to be a 49ers favorite and knew it was going to fall short of a field goal, like you said. It was one of the easier, lines to guess maybe the entire year. I bet at the Chiefs plus 105 on the money line immediately. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a good game. There are narratives to where the Niners could win this football game, but giving Patrick Mahomes getting points once again, or a dog on the money line. The bigger one to me was I think this total is too low, and there has been less movement there. I think they're going to clear 47.5, no question about it. There are clear mismatches, which we'll get into, I think, on both sides of the football favoring the offense. Both teams have good defenses. This might sound crazy. I think Kansas City has a notably better defense than the 49ers, which might sound a little crazy to some folks, but I'm not even sure it's a debate. But I think you can attack this Chiefs defense if you're the Niners, underneath, throwing two guys over the middle. We saw Nick Bolton struggle in coverage all game. You can run on them, which, like we said, the Ravens should have done a whole lot more of. And then for the Niners, their defense just is not good as it's been. Look at the last 2 months, not just the playoffs. They have not been a good defense. Nick Bosa kind of doing his own thing. Javon Hargrave has been a bit of an absent, presence here. Chase Young, everyone, and their mother tweeted about his lack of effort on that pursuit run play. I think we're going to get a lot of points in this game, and I do think the Chiefs are going to pull it out. I think it'll stay where it is. I think it'll land 1.5, 2.5, in the Niners' favor, even up to game time.
Pacheco rushing props in general, outside of touchdowns. What do you think about his long, his yards, his attempts, and just the rushing props in general, which we had touched on a couple minutes before you joined us?
Yeah, I think you play the angle of if they have a positive game script and they're up, we know Andy Reid is going to run the football. Of course, they're still going to have a higher pass rate than most teams in all scenarios, all score differentials, etc. But I think if they get an early lead, you are going to see a ton of Isaiah Pacheco. And I thought we saw a shift of there was a kind of late season, early playoffs. There was more of a committee. I think you saw in that Ravens game, no, Isaiah Pacheco is our workhorse. He's getting pass catching volume. He's getting all the carries. We had a little bit of CEH mixed in, but McKinnon's still not there. I think I'd play attempts, more than the yards. And longest rush, the Niners do a very good job of limiting those explosives. You mentioned the Aaron Jones run, but over the course of the year, you can kind of chip away at them, but it's hard to really break off an explosive. They gang tackle very well. They attack the football very, very well in space. So I would go more attempts, and the angle is just Chiefs go up, and they just pound the rock and try to bleed clock and just not let the Niners back on the field.
So I like to do weekly, Aaron. I like to call it the KenPom 2020, where if you are on the top 20 in terms of offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. By the end of the season, you qualify as a national champion. I think it's 2 since 2003. All but 2 have won the national championship. Arizona fits that bill right now. They're 6th on offense, 13th on defense. They have some curious results, and the 3-point defense is a bit concerning. We've seen Arizona really run into trouble come tournament time when the game slows down. I will say this team looks a bit different. They're not running the 2 big lineup anymore. They're running really that 1 big with Omar Ballo and 4 wings outside of them. So they kind of look a little bit more versatile, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm there as like national championship winner. There are a little too many bouts with poor, ineffective play, especially shooting. But I don't know if this team is like going to lose to Princeton again. It might just be a little bit later in the tournament. They are a tricky team to crack. Especially when they leave Tucson, they really just aren't the same team.
Big picture, when you think about futures, teams, whether they're at the top of the board or not, you may have in mind with the stretch run and March fast approaching.
So like I mentioned, those like 2020 buckets, I'm looking for balanced teams that can win in multiple ways. We were talking about Tennessee earlier. That is a team I placed a future on in the past 2 weeks. I believe that Tennessee is different. Famous last words, I'm going to trust Rick Barnes in March. But I do think that this team looks a little bit different than it has in the past. Dalton Knecht, in my opinion, is the best wing in the entire country. This is a guy who's regularly scoring 25 plus, and he gives Tennessee a complexion on offense that they haven't had in recent years. And meanwhile, they're still backing it up on defense. It's still a top 5 defense. They have size down low. And having a bucket getter like Dalton Knecht really opens up the floor, in my opinion. So Tennessee, they fit the bill. And I think, them with the same odds as Kentucky, I believe it says on the side there. I think that's a little crazy given the complexion of Kentucky's roster. They have high-end talent, but that's a team that's like approaching outside the top 100 in adjusted defense. So Kentucky, red flags are up. I do not trust Kentucky come March.